everyone. Welcome back to the Earthdawn Survival Guide, the podcast for all disciplines, paths, players, and game masters, and the questers that are Josh and Dan. I am Dan.
I am Josh.
There we go. And on today's podcast, we'll be discussing all things... I can't even make up a word anymore. We're going to talk about the path of the Windmaster. Yes. Yeah. So I can't even...
Returning to our next entry in our Paths series.
Yes. Not that we're trying to sell some books, but we just are here to help out all the players who might think about this possibility, because a couple of the emails we received last episode detailed that maybe some people hadn't thought of these certain things, and then we talked about them, and they said, oh, maybe I should think about that certain thing. So we're here to talk about the one and only windling path that you can add on to your discipline, because there used to be 3.
Yes. There were 3 windling-specific racial disciplines that were presented in Denizens of Earthdawn, Volume 1, the first edition book that covered the windlings among the other pretty races, or the squishy races. That first book had the elves, the humans, the Tiskrang, and the windlings, whereas Volume 2 had the dwarf, orc, troll, and obsidian.
Yes.
In alphabetical order, not that order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But each of the books had racial-specific disciplines. We talked about the purifier kind of getting broken up into a couple of different paths. We talked about...
the fire eater.
Yeah, we talked about the liberator as an orc discipline that is now its own thing, and how the fire eater is unique and not based in that.
Yes.
The windlings had the wind dancer, the wind scout, and the wind master.
Yes.
Each of those being sort of windling variants, windling specific versions of scout, troubadour, and warrior.
Yeah.
Slightly more complex than that, but that's the basic idea, is that they got talents swapped in that were suited to them as windlings. You know, like, for example, the Wind Scout, I don't think, got climbing because they could fly. You know, that sort of thing. Obviously, again, talking about the first edition discipline designs where you had a fixed list of choices. And so having entirely new disciplines that provided a slightly different set of tools is not quite so necessary in the talent option paradigm for 3rd and 4th edition.
Yeah. So is this a condensation of all those 3, or is this a really just a shedding of the other 2 to say, we're going to focus on Windmaster and make it better?
Well, it's kind of a shedding of the other 2. It's kind of a refining, a crystallization,
those are better
refocus of what it was, because Windmaster, of the 3, was the one that was most useful / necessary in a sense, because the big shortcoming of windlings when it comes to combat disciplines is that windlings tend to have reasonably high dexterities, but don't have much strength at all, and tend not to have a whole lot more toughness, although they were not restricted in terms of their toughness the way that they were in their strength in 1st edition. And so having a windling-specific version of a fighting character, of a combat character that swapped in some talents and gave them some abilities that took advantage of their strengths was, I think, cool and useful and flavorful. Wind Scout didn't provide a whole lot that was necessarily windling-specific. Wind Dancer is basically a troubadour. Like, they had insect speech or some other... I don't have the 1st edition book handy to see what it was, but there wasn't so much in either of those that was particularly windling focused.
Yeah.
That would necessitate even a path that would basically not anything that you couldn't already kind of put together with the talent options design paradigm.
Or skills, yeah.
But the Windmaster, taking that as the idea of the combat type, but one that is going to be focused upon maximizing the advantages of the windling while minimizing the disadvantages, and to play into some of the cultural concepts of windlings, which is to say that the wind masters tend to be a little bit more serious and kind of forego the windling frivolity and curiosity and embracing of life, and they kind of give that up in order to give other windlings the opportunity to do that, is psychological and mystical idea that kind of gets taken on there.
Yeah. So the windling name for the Windmaster is the Shayera Tis, which means Wind Swift One. And if you get to a high enough level or high enough circle in this, like rank 5, you're called the Maz Shayera Tis, which is the lethal Wind Swift One. So it's one of those things. And yes, we did check this path because you have to be able to fly. It is windlings only. Sorry.
Yes.
It's one of those very specific things. It's just windlings only. I loved the essay. There was a specific line in there. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. I'll have to go find it here in a second or so. But it was just a beautifully, beautifully said thing. Yeah, I'll spill my guts just enough for you to spill a little ink. That was my favorite thing. Because Windmasters are a little bit cagey, to use Josh's phrase. They're a little bit secretive because they don't think everybody can join, and they don't think everybody should join. This is a dedicated task to protecting windlings, especially because they know they are the smaller in physical stature race in Earthdawn, and they get taken advantage of that way. And they're a little bit squishier than some, as not the stoutest that there are. So this path is adjacent to your regular discipline. Any of them will work, but however, it tends to work better if you're, say, a warrior, a swordmaster, a scout, or a thief. Those are the top 4 mentioned in the essay. Those are the top 4 mentioned, I think, in some of the knacks as well. But it just works. But Windmasters together, if you get more than one of them together, they tend to work well as a pack or a troop or a unit. And they can employ different tactics at that point because they're no longer attacking as just one single windling against their opponent. And it's now a fortified group that can take down their quarry.
Yes. Again, leveraging the strengths of the windling, which is the mobility and the speed that they have through their ability to fly, and being smaller, do have the ability to sort of bring more manpower to bear.
Fair.
In a particular area.
Yeah.
Is definitely one of the goals and focuses of the path.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter what discipline you're playing, because again, all disciplines are available to tack on the path of the Windmaster. However, you don't necessarily find a Windmaster to teach you if you want to join the path. They'll find you because you have to have the right attitude and mindset and a little lack of frivolity, and any unserious applicant is immediately turned away. You have to be dedicated to this. Again, and you're not just going through the mechanics of adding on the path. You are going through the story and the role-playing of this is what my character wants to do, and the character, not the player, the character needs to take it seriously, and then the Windmasters will find you to basically, based upon the fact that you've done the right things, you want to protect certain members, if not all members of your windling race, and then, as I said, word will spread. It'll get around to them, and they'll observe you, maybe from afar for a couple days, and if they feel you maybe have the right mindset, they'll approach you and go from there.
Yeah. Aside from the mental requirements, the psychological profile that makes one suited to be a Windmaster, the requirements of being a Windmaster actually aren't that difficult. Obviously, you need to be a windling.
Yeah, well,
because you need to be able to fly and not fly through the use of the occasional spell, but to actually be a windling and to have that understanding of the 3-dimensional world
On a regular basis.
On a regular basis. The only requirement, other than being a journeyman, which is required for all paths, that's not anything that's special, is melee weapons rank 5. You need to have the ability to wield a weapon because it is a martial path. It is a combat path.
Yeah.
And so obviously that makes it a little bit more difficult for magicians to follow the path. They need to either have picked up, melee weapons as a skill. I don't know that melee weapons is commonly available as an option to most magician disciplines.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of it, but yeah.
The idea of the Windmaster is one who is going to put themselves in harm's way, which is not something that is typically part of a windling or a magician's way of doing things. Warrior, obviously. Swordmaster, obviously. Weaponsmith. We had an email from someone who had a windling weaponsmith that ended up going into becoming a Windmaster. They get melee weapons. Scout, potentially, if they go the melee path, could become a Windmaster. So there are several sort of discipline options that make it easier to become a Windmaster. And so the focus on the close combat aspects of things, because the tools and tricks that the Windmaster provides take advantage of that. Whereas archer or spellcaster, magician of some sort would not be as suited. They're certainly valued and, maybe worthwhile as allies, but for the actual dedication of the mystical path, tend not to be quite as
I'm curious. Only because of the Legends of Earthdawn game that you're in. What about a windling cavalryman who might want to be on this path as well?
Yes. It has not been revealed in the episodes thus far.
Gotcha.
But Gareth, Rusty's windling cavalryman, does pick up Windmaster in the aftermath of the major campaign arc that we are kind of closing out in the recently released episodes. Cliff actually put up a new episode not too long ago, so he's got some out. We're kind of back to some forward progress on that. But yes, cavalrymen, absolutely. They get melee weapons, and so that is another discipline that could be pretty well suited to the path. In fact, as we'll see when we go through the different talent options, Windmaster makes a cavalryman quite a bit more versatile, because one of the weaknesses of cavalrymen is their reliance on the mount.
Yeah.
So Windmaster gives them access to a bunch of tools that make them more versatile and as effective off of their mount as they are on it.
Good.
It's probably not the first choice. Warrior or Swordmaster probably would be a much higher choice. And Warriors first, because Warriors tend to have more of the serious mindset than Swordmasters would. But Swordmasters could absolutely fulfill that role if necessary.
Yeah. Did Rusty do the essay or not?
Yeah, Rusty wrote the essay for the Windmaster.
Fair.
And so a couple of the sidebar characters, I've mentioned Knave before. Knave Two Scars, if you... when we covered the Questor essays...
Yes.
I think the Thestonius one was written by Rusty, and Knave shows up as a sidebar commentator in that as well.
Gotcha.
Knave is a character who I love, that actually shows up in the Earthdawn novel that Rusty wrote, that will hopefully at some point see the light of day, because I would love people to meet her and the rest of that gang of awesome folks from that series.
So certain disciplines do work better for this. Questers and people who want to find this path, probably not the best mix, because again, you're dividing your loyalty a little.
Yeah, we've talked about this with the other paths. While there is certainly the potential for some compatibility, when you start getting too much things involved, it can spread you a little bit thin, can be a little bit distracting, and limit your potential to do stuff. Thestonius kind of seems like it would be an appropriate patron
Yes.
for Windmasters, and frequently Windmasters do honor Thistonius, but an actual full-blown questor.
Yes. Yeah, they may...
Again, that's like a different level of things.
Yeah, they may ask Thistonius for help in the next conflict, but they're not going to... They're focused on this path, not on the questor path for Thistonius. This is... You're dividing your loyalty a little too much.
Yeah, and much like trying to follow multiple paths, because of the mystical mindset and psychology that is involved in being able to do it in the first place, doing more than one, barring super exceptional individuals,
Yeah.
is a little bit of a difficult juggling act.
Fair. And we also, as we said, following more than one path at the same time might be a difficult juggle as well. So,
I mean, one of the things that's sort of mentioned here, and it's not really explicitly stated so much in any of the essays or in any of the discussions that we've had so far, but at least I'm noticing here, looking at the book, that says, members of other paths are rarely granted entry into the Windmasters, and Windmasters rarely grant permission to join other paths. Unlike with a discipline, where there is a certain amount of freedom and you can go and seek mentors and trainers of different philosophical outlooks, that if you get on the bad side of a couple of higher circled followers of your discipline, that doesn't necessarily prevent you from advancing within your discipline. You can go to another location, find somebody who maybe is psychologically or mystically more compatible with you and be able to advance. When you are joining a path, you are joining a mystical organization that is a lot more, in most cases, a lot more structured and formal than you're going to find with most disciplines.
yes.
One of the key aspects of joining a path is swearing a blood oath. And so that makes you beholden to, and much like being a member of a group true pattern, becoming a member of a path puts a certain responsibility on you to follow the instructions and dictates and guidelines and tenets of that mystical organization that you've joined. And it's possible for you to, in a sense, break that oath and therefore lose all of the benefits that magical thing has granted you.
It's a fraternity, but more serious. It's a sorority, but more serious. It's it's a blood pact.
And so
it's also more serious.
If somebody is already following a path, if somebody has already sworn an oath to follow a particular magical cult, in a sense, any other groups like that are going to be very, very careful about allowing them into their membership because of potential conflicts of interest. And that sort of thing. And likewise are going to be very cagey about allowing members of their organization to join others. That's the sort of thing where your secrets potentially get spilled. And part of the function of paths from a storytelling standpoint, not only from a rule standpoint, is to kind of silo off some of these more cool abilities behind some gates that require role-playing and narrative justification to get access to.
Agreed. So I find the really fun part about the Windmaster initiation is when other Windmasters finally get word of you and they observe you for a while and they think, okay, maybe this windling will do. They just kind of ambush you and
see what happens.
Ambush you and say, okay, let's fight. Let's take it on. Be as up to the task as possible. You got to try your best. You don't know you're being challenged. You just know maybe you're being ambushed by 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, 12 windlings, who knows, that are actual Windmasters, but try to keep up. And if you keep up well enough, they'll ask you in. If you don't keep up well enough, maybe they'll keep an eye on you for a little bit longer.
And the other piece of that I think is cool, which plays into the themes of the windlings and the style of combat that the Windmasters promote, is that they're not expecting you to solo a group of experienced fighters, that they want to see how you handle yourself. They want to see, do you use cunning and tactics and the aid of other individuals, whether they're windlings or not, to handle the situation.
Are you resilient enough to actually know you may not win but you're going to put up a good fight? Or
Right.
are you going to buckle under the pressure and give up and evacuate, and bug out? So I like that. It's also the playfulness of the Windling just reminds me of a surprise party sometimes, and that this is what that is.
Well, yeah. I'm reminded of, God, what is it? The Green Hornet who had
Yeah.
the ally Kato,
Kato. Yeah. Bruce Lee.
who was played by Bruce Lee in the TV show. Yes.
Exactly.
Whether it was the Green Hornet or a parody of the Green Hornet, because they all kind of draw from that pulp
Yeah.
background, where the sidekick would leap out of places unexpectedly to test the main character.
You're thinking the Pink Panther.
Ah,
Movies.
yes.
The Pink Panther movies.
Because I'm sitting there and I'm going, I want to say it's Peter Sellers that's doing it, but
You are
Peter
correct.
Sellers was not the Green Hornet. But it
No.
was Peter Sellers because it was the Pink Panther, and the Pink Panther is parodying
The
the Green Hornet thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not completely mental.
No, I'm here to help.
But that's like that kind of feeling, a little bit like not fun or funny necessarily.
Yes,
Just,
yes.
a little bit more not deadly serious, but a little bit more
Serious enough.
serious.
Yeah.
The other thing that I like is assuming that the candidate is going to be accepted into the Windmasters. Part of the initiation ritual are the ones who tested him sort of ritualistically recreating as kind of a performance or dance.
Yes.
The challenge and the fight that they had in front of the other members that are participating in the induction. Whether they were there at the battle or not, but
They
that's part
recreate
of it.
the entire ordeal as
Yes.
a group. And so the initiate, tells the story of exactly what happened in as much detail as possible. And everybody in the group recreates it as a communal experience, because Windlings are very communal that way. And I appreciate that as well. But it also involves a mask. Everybody gets this like superhero, Batman mask to
Yes.
put on that I can't say hides their identity, but also just is this like putting on a football helmet. Now it's game time and you go do your thing. But
There is a little bit of that loss of identity that we are the defenders of Windlings. Our individual role is kind of subsumed into this
community.
situation, this community, this
Yeah.
mystical brotherhood that we have created to do this.
So yeah, when you are initiated, you get this blank mask that I assume eventually you get to decorate yourself, but it's blank at first, so that you're just part of it.
Yeah, if you look at the artwork that leads up the Windmaster essay in the Mystic Paths book, The Wonderful Piece by Joel Bisk, you actually see that Windling's mask is hanging from her belt there.
Yes. Yeah, page 132. That's beautiful. Love that art.
It's a nice little detail there.
It so is. So once you're given your ordeal, of course, and that whole thing happens, then you get your rank 1. The advancement is very simple, and Windlings can be very simple this way. You fight things bigger than you show no fear in the face of your enemies, and you win. Therefore, you advance.
Yep.
Next rank, go.
And quite frequently that is tied into the defense in some way of Windling settlements or
Yes.
groups or whatever.
Sometimes individual, sometimes a small group, sometimes Windling society as a whole. Go for it. Or sometimes it's, a very large creature bigger than you that you tackle single-handedly. Tackle in the figurative sense, not the literal sense, as a Windling. But yes, you are singularly focused on the protection of other Windlings, period. And I love the fact that it's if you're finally like rank 1 or 2 and you're assigned a small community, observe, because the senior Windmasters, the higher rank Windmasters, will come ask you, who did you observe and why does that person need your protection? And so it focuses on the individual, but also still the community as a whole. And I like that aspect of the whole thing. But most of your advancement later on takes place in Glenwood Deep. Remind everybody where that is.
Yeah, Glenwood Deep is in sort of northwestern Barsave. If you pull up a map of Barsave, you look at the map of the province. In the far northwest corner, you've got Iopos, and the Serpent River kind of leads from just off the map down past Iopos before kind of bending and running eastward, where it runs along into through House Ishkarat territory and Lake Vorse, I want to say.
Vorst, yes.
And then past the Bloodwood and kind of further going there. Glenwood Deep is this big forest that's kind of north of that House Ishkarat stretch of the Serpent River, so like southwest of Bloodwood, nestled up between the river and the foothills of the Skull Mountains. It is mentioned that it is has the highest population density of windlings in Barsave, while the windlings don't have a formal society that is kind of structured the way that any other groups are. It is sort of the closest thing to a windling homeland that exists in Barsave. And because of that, because of the high population of windlings and windling settlements that are there, it is ostensibly where the Windmasters were founded and are still sort of based out of, even though individual Windmasters might be protecting communities in other parts of the province.
Fair enough. So with that being said, there is, right as we get to the end of the essay, and actually all the end of the talents and so forth and so on, there's this little wrinkle about Windmasters getting an initiative additional successes rule. Should we talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of ties into some of the abilities that they get.
Which we'll get to in a minute.
I mean, we talked about the gauntlet several weeks ago, where one of the conceits of the gauntlet is that they are designed to sacrifice their initiative in order to act later in the round in order to turn that into bonuses. There is not any kind of intentional design like mirroring that's going on there, but the Windmasters, because of their emphasis on speed and dexterity and taking advantage of that natural ability that windlings have some abilities that grant them additional successes on initiative. And it's basically just kind of saying there that, quote unquote, spending extra successes from initiative tests, usually determined by comparing the windlings' initiative to their target, does not actually reduce their initiative results. It's just basically for the purposes of, if you have multiple abilities that base things off of successes, then, you can't spend the same success on multiple things.
Yeah. So just wanted to cover that real quick. Otherwise, let's talk about how you get to alter.
Yeah, well, the example to kind of make it a little bit more clear is, for example, the air dance talent, which is an initiative talent that allows the adept to act faster in combat. And if they score 2 extra successes, which is to say 10 or higher than their designated target, they get an additional close combat attack after their target has taken a turn. That is sort of, in that sense, spending those 2 successes to do that. And there are some additional knacks and other abilities that Windmasters get access to that allow them to spend extra successes in a similar way.
Yeah.
You just only have so many successes and you kind of get to choose how to spend them. So if you have 3 extra successes and you're going to use a Windmaster ability that spends 2, you only have 1 extra left over. That's not enough to trigger the extra attack that you would get from Air Dance if you happened to use that ability.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. As long as that's clear as mud for everybody else, we're in good shape. So on to the next. Let's talk about how the Karma Ritual gets to enhance your current discipline Karma Ritual. So when you add on Windmaster, you get to now do a whole lot more in the air, essentially. Or you can add whatever you've got to some dizzying flights, displays of speed, and so forth, if you'd like to add this on for your Windmaster path onto your regular discipline Karma Ritual.
Yeah, we talked about the other paths that we've discussed so far, how following the path will change the adept's interaction with the magic, will change the way that they get in tune with their discipline. It is a focusing of their discipline magic in a particular way.
Yeah.
And so their karma ritual will change a little bit, will adapt to bring in this new mystical psychology that is part of it. And so the Windmaster, with their emphasis on speed and mobility and so forth, are going to incorporate a lot more of that into whatever their karma ritual is.
Yeah. So the half magic ability that you get to add on to your other existing half magic ability discipline from your discipline is that you, of course, you can use your half magic to find other Windmasters and know the history of Windmasters. That's pretty much going to be standardized across the board. But additionally, you get to use half magic for guerrilla and ambush warfare, history of windling battles and tactics, windling equipment, fighting styles, so forth and so on. So that's just neat little flavor text to add to whichever windling you're going to play.
It's a windling-focused martial organization.
Yeah.
And a big part of what you would learn by training and being part of that is how windlings fight, because that's the focus of the Windmaster.
Yes. Definitely so. So let's go through, since we've hit most of the high points already, and if I weren't a windling, I want to play a windling now, and I want to add Windmaster to my windling. So this sounds exactly like the path I would want to be on. So the Windmaster talent cost is a master tier, maximum rank of 10. So nice build out on this one here. We've got a lot of talent options as well. So ranks 1 through 10, of course, you get a new talent for every single rank you get. So you only get 10 new talents. But at rank 2, you get a +1 physical defense, which does, by the way, as we mentioned before, stack with your discipline bonuses as well. So these do stack. Rank 4, you get a +1 mystic defense. Rank 6, you get a +2 another physical defense. Rank 8, a recovery test. Rank 9, another physical defense bonus. And rank 10, an initiative bonus, because that's adding on to your speed and acting first. So windlings mostly don't have the patience to act last in the first place. So your talent options. Rank 1, 2, 3, and 4, you get only 4 of these, each one per rank. Air speaking, awareness, distract, danger sense, sprint, which I think is really useful for windlings, stealthy stride, surprise strike, also very useful, tactics, tiger spring, and wound balance.
Those are all talents that are available to various disciplines right from the beginning. The Windmaster path does not grant access to their cool, unique talents until a little bit later in the progression, but all of these abilities are really useful in terms of fleshing out additional options for your character's combat ability.
Yeah, I think these fill in the gaps if you're missing a talent that you want to have.
Air speaking obviously isn't a combat talent, but it can be very handy if you are going to be organizing as a group.
Yes.
Like if you're going to be guerrilla fighting and striking from ambush, air speaking allows your squad to be able to communicate with each other without giving yourself away, because it is kind of a silent communication.
Yeah.
So that's really handy. Awareness obviously is like a universally useful talent.
Totally.
If you don't somehow already have it, it's great to be able to pick that up. Distract is a really great talent for group fighting. You have one person that makes themselves a target and grants their allies bonuses to attack that target. Pairs really well with Surprise Strike, which also becomes available because it's considered a blindside bonus, which means that it triggers the damage bonus potential of Surprise Strike. So those work really well together. Danger Sense, obviously, if you are going to be a pack tactics guerrilla ambush fighter, having the ability to also sense ambushes and notice that sort of thing can come in handy.
And just the passivity of that is wonderful.
Sprint, obviously, being able to increase your movement rate, already kind of prodigious for windlings who are flying. Being able to push that even farther can be handy. Stealthy Stride, again, not necessarily like directly useful in combat, but if you're going to be setting up ambushes and doing guerrilla fighting, the ability to sneak around and strike from ambush successfully is really useful. Already talked about Surprise Strike. Tactics, you're going to be working as a group. You have somebody that sets the plan, you follow the plan, you get bonuses to do that.
Having a plan's a good thing.
Having a plan is a good thing. Tiger Spring, an initiative booster, again, taking advantage of speed and whatnot. And Wound Balance, very useful for windlings because they do tend to have lower toughnesses and therefore lower wound thresholds, which means it's more likely that they are going to be, that if they do take a hit, to be potentially knocked down. And being knocked down for a windling, if you are flying, is potentially even worse than it is for others, because if you're knocked down, you could potentially take damage from falling out of the sky.
Falling damage is a thing.
Falling damage is a thing. So having wound balancing, the ability to not be knocked down in combat, if you are going to be a character that is focusing on close combat, is really, really useful.
Yes.
This suite of abilities, if you're creating the character from the beginning, you're making a warrior or a swordmaster or something like that, intending to become a Windmaster, you can kind of look at this, and a lot of these are talent options for warriors or other martially inclined disciplines. I don't have enough novice talent slots to pick up everything that I want. Well, here you go. Here are a bunch more slots that allow you to pick up the other things that you didn't.
Yeah.
Surprise Strike actually isn't available to warriors, but it's because of the windling fighting tactics that they employ as Windmasters becomes useful. So you can get some additional things like that in there.
Yeah.
So nothing unique, but all really, really useful abilities for enhancing the windling's capability to fight, especially in groups.
Yeah. And the only problem is you only get 4 of those because you get one at rank 1, 2, 3, and 4. So because rank 5, here they come.
Yes, you only get 4 of those, but also understand, if you're a Windmaster, you've probably maybe gotten access to some of those already. This just basically allows you to fill in those gaps that you didn't.
That you've been wanting. So, yeah. So rank 5, 6, 7, and 8, you get 3 of these. Air Dance.
4, you get 4 of these.
Oh, 5,
6, 7, and 8.
I can't count. So yeah, 4 of these. So rank 5, you get Air Dance. And the new one, clearly it's just an initiative booster. Always wonderful. Leadership, Lionheart, Spot Armor Flaw, Temper Flesh, which just sounds really cool.
All of those are completely understandable why they would be available. Air Dance is your initiative booster. Leadership pairs nicely with tactics and things like that. Appropriate for any kind of organization that's going to be fighting in groups like that. Lionheart is a fear resistance ability, very useful to have for everyone. I think like a lot of disciplines get access to it at some point or another.
Oh, totally.
Spot Armor Flaw is another damage enhancer similar to Surprise Strike. Weaponsmiths get access to it.
Oh, yeah.
Archers get access to it. It basically is finding the weak spots, the vulnerable points in your opponent's armor and defenses in order to enhance the amount of damage that you do to them.
Yeah.
And Temper Flesh is a defensive talent. It increases your armor ratings.
Are squishy.
Since windlings are squishy and tend not to wear a lot of armor, especially if you're going to be one that is focusing on speed and quickness to get you by, being able to boost your armor ratings without needing to wear heavy armor can come in pretty handy.
Exactly. And there's a new one.
And then we get the new one.
Dive Attack.
Yeah, this was the special ability that Windmasters got access to back in first edition. This is kind of a legacy thing.
Yeah.
Dive Attack is essentially like the charge ability that cavalrymen get, but without needing a mount. It is another damage enhancing talent. It does require the windling to move a certain distance in order to strike their target, but it basically adds its rank to damage.
Yeah. Was this basically from the splitting movement dive combat option?
Yeah, basically. Okay. The other nice thing is that Dive Attack specifically can be used with other damage enhancing talents like Crushing Blow or Downstrike. That's part of the reason why it's not available till rank 5 or higher. Yeah. Because typically you need to be a journeyman adept already, and if you're going to be a martial discipline, you typically will have access to Crushing Blow or Downstrike or something like that. In a similar way that the Beastmaster's Claw Shape can be explicitly used with other damage enhancing talents like that, Dive Attack does something similar. Yeah. It just requires the windling to be mobile and to be able to move sufficiently in order to get that bonus. And this is where, hey, I'm a cavalryman, so I can get this kind of bonus either charging on my mount, or if something happens where I need to get off my mount, I can still get a decent damage bonus because I have this ability.
Exactly. So rank 9 and 10, these are your master tier talents for the Windmaster path. And there's only 4 because you only get 2 of these, but really the decision comes down to which one of the 3 do you want, because the last one you should take. So you get critical hit as an option, defensive posture, and unflinching fortitude.
Those are all high circle abilities available to other disciplines. Critical hit is a damage enhancing talent. Defensive posture increases the bonuses that you get to, I think it increases the bonuses that you get to active defenses like avoid blow and stuff. Unflinching fortitude is another toughness-based kind of ability. I don't actually have all of those right in front of me, but those are all in the companion.
Yeah. So really it comes down to which one of those 3 do you want at rank 10, because at rank 9, you're going to want to get Wing Blitz.
Yes. Wing Blitz
is the new one.
Is a new talent. This is not sort of based off of anything that existed before. But what it does is it adds its rank to the Adept's initiative results. And it can be used with other talents that improve initiative like Air Dance or Tiger Spring. In order to use it, the Adept must be flying under their own power. Mm-hmm. But it basically makes the Adept even faster.
Yes, because electricity crackles along your body and they move as a lightning strike. So why would you not want that? Because now you're all sparkly. So anyway, like I said, if I don't have a Windling character, but I want to make one now, and I want to eventually get to where I can add this path to my character, because this whole thing sounds like I'm made for this. So that works for me. Any further thoughts on the Windmaster as a whole?
We can talk about Nax.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nax.
We can talk about
notes right down here.
This is the other.
I have Nax. I have Nax in my notes. I skipped them. Nax. Josh, hit us with some Nax.
Okay, so focus mainly on the unique talents that they get access to, plus their sort of karma Nax that they get for being a Windmaster.
Yeah.
Talk about Dive Attack first, that damage-enhancing talent that they get, starting available ability at rank 5. There are only 2 Nax in Mystic Paths that are based off of Dive Attack. Bluffing Dive, which instead of doing damage, turns their Dive Attack into a fear-generating attack. They basically make the test against the target's social defense, and the target is harried if successful. Similar to like what Taunt does. Basically just buzz them and strike fear into their enemy by narrowly missing them.
Yeah.
But it just makes them harried. That's at rank 5 Dive Attack. At rank 8 Dive Attack, they get even more effective at that with a knack called Fearsome Dive. This is similar to Fearsome Charge, a talent that cavalrymen get, where basically they are making the attack and there's some illusion magic that makes them appear even more fearsome and whatnot, and it actually imposes a penalty per success on the attack. Both of those are social attacks that the Adept can make using Dive Attack. Then we've got Wing Blitz actually doesn't have any Nax that I can see here. But there are a bunch of Windmaster Nax. At rank 1, they can spend karma on an initiative test.
Mm-hmm.
Shiera Tis, that's the name of the knack. Basically, by being a Windmaster, they can pick up that knack to spend karma on initiative. At rank 2, they get a knack called Annoying Little ... They can spend karma on Distract or Taunt. At rank 3, they get Windmaster's Advantage. They can spend a karma point on an attack or damage test against a blindsided or surprised opponent, which can be used up to their Windmaster rank times per round.
Yeah.
Rank 4, they get Never Alone. They can spend a karma point on an attack or damage test when an ally is adjacent to them.
Nice.
At rank 5, they get Death from Above. They can spend a karma point on an attack or damage test while performing a dive attack or swooping attack.
I love the name of that one.
Rank 6, they get Windmaster Training. They can spend a karma point on a test against a target with a lower initiative. The test must be a simple action and cannot be an attack or spellcasting test. So basically, because they're getting all sorts of knack abilities to spend karma on other stuff, this allows them to spend karma on other things. Rank 7, they get Windmaster Technique. It allows them to spend karma on attack or damage against a target with a lower initiative. So Windmaster Training is other stuff that are not attack and damage.
Yeah.
Windmaster Technique is attack and damage. Rank 8, Windmaster's Resilience, they can spend karma on recovery. Rank 9, Windmaster's Dance, they can spend a karma point on an attack or damage test gained through Air Dance. So if they get that extra success, the extra attack as a result of Air Dance, then they can spend karma on that as well. So that's like an additional karma on top of that. And then at rank 10, which is the last Windmaster knack that's available, because it is the highest rank that they can achieve, they get Maz Shieratis.
Lethal.
It requires them to have the rank 1 knack. It allows them to spend yet another karma point on an initiative test. So that's 2 karma, 1 from each knack.
Yeah.
Plus, if they're using a talent like Air Dance that allows them to spend a point of karma on the talent, there's a 3rd point of karma, so they can go really, really well.
And by then, maybe their karma die is no longer a D6.
Yeah, and by that
D8.
point, it might be that they have bumped up to that point to a D8 karma die.
Yeah, so you can add on like 3D6, 3D8 at that point to, I want to go first, and I want to do a lot.
There's a melee weapons knack that requires you to be a rank 8 Windmaster. It allows you to use melee weapons to make a ranged attack. It's called Wind Slash. It requires rank 10 melee weapons and a Windmaster rank 8 or circle 12 of any discipline. But you slice through the air, causing rippling disturbance that cuts into their opponent up to melee weapons rank times 2 yards away. They use Wind Slash as the attack test, and the damage is resolved as normal, but it cannot benefit from abilities that specifically affect close combat or ranged attacks.
Yeah.
But generic bonuses, can apply. And I'm sure, hidden away in the several pages of knacks that are in there, there's probably some Air Dance knacks, or maybe,
there are.
Let's see.
But yeah, any of those other talents you get, there's got to be at least 1 or 2 knacks on each one of those.
There's 4 Air Dance knacks that are all require Windmaster. I'm not done with you yet. Requires Air Dance rank 5, Windmaster rank 2. If the targeted opponent moves away from the adept can follow as a free action up to their remaining movement rate for the round.
Oh, close the distance.
So it basically makes them sticky. At Windmaster rank 5, Air Dance rank 8, they get Speed Freak, compares their initiative result to a target and can spend additional successes to gain +1 success per success to their next close combat attack test. So this is where some of those spending bonus successes from initiative can come from.
Yeah.
Speed Kills gives you +1 per success to damage instead of attack on close combat. At rank 7, you can spend initiative successes to increase your physical defense. Take a look at all of the talents that you get access to and spend those, find out those tricks and whatnot.
You become a whirling dervish at this point.
Yeah, there's a Tiger Spring knack that allows you to, if you are grappled as a windling, you can use bonus. If you have this Tiger Spring knack, you can spend extra successes to gain bonuses to your attempt to escape the grapple.
Yeah.
It's +2 per success. So there's a bunch of neat little tricks like that. So just make sure that you kind of go through the talent knacks that are available and find out what kind of neat tricks that you get access to as a Windmaster.
Yeah, because the paths are not just about getting the talent options and fleshing out filling in your gaps. It's about the knacks.
Yeah, the knacks
how
are
you can use those
as much, if not more, the focus
paths
of the paths. While many of those knacks that are connected with sort of more generic talents, like the ones that are connected to Air Dance, are not exclusive to Windmaster. You can get them if you are a higher circle character and not a Windmaster. Following the path gets you access to it sooner, in theory, than you would as your normal discipline. So yeah, there are a whole bunch of cool toys in there that allow you to do more cool things.
So this makes me want to go make a windling character now.
Windlings are cool. They sometimes get a bad rap, but Windmasters were in part intentionally created from a narrative standpoint to be more serious and not the goofy, annoying
misperception of windlings.
Yeah. Back in our windling episode, I talked about the windling thing.
Yeah.
Windmasters were intentionally like, hey, there are serious windlings out there, and they are badass.
And these are them. So, any further final thoughts on Windmasters?
No, we've covered everything. Windmasters are great.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with the essay. I'm really happy with the design that went behind them. We come back to this every time we talk about a path.
Yeah.
I really, really like what the paths allow us to do from a design standpoint in terms of providing access to some cool new tricks, that allow us to gate some things that are thematically appropriate for a particular design, a particular character build from a certain standpoint.
Yeah.
But provide a kind of narrative framework for them to be gained without needing to go to the situation of, I've got this neat idea for an ability, let's build an entirely new discipline around them that is, 95% this already existing thing, but swaps out a couple of talents.
Fair. No, I love this path. I'm all in favor of this path. So until next time, folks, if you have any questions for us, feel free to email us at edsgpodcast@gmail.com. Otherwise, you know where to find us on the Twitters and the Facebooks and everywhere else you can possibly do it. If you don't find us, you're not trying hard enough. So until next time, it is time for you to go dive attack your legend.
Good night, everybody.